So we're back and we're completely full of wind. Too much winning. Too much winning. Can't hardly stand it. So, other than the fact that I don't have a monitor, so this thing could kick out at any time and screw my life up, the things that we've changed are that I relieved this back here a little bit because I noticed when we were turning, I left it there as a reference to hit my as a backup for my 264 dimension that I was going for. I did hit the 264. I also did touch down on the metal a time or two. I don't like the metal particles mixing with the brass particles, so long story short, we're going to leave that setting alone. And we are going to, if you watch this, back up off of the step, back onto the case. So that's what we're going to do between turns, is just back off of it. And I'm going to try to cut through in one pass. I'm still a little concerned that maybe part of the difference is that maybe Jackie's not cutting off as much as me, but I don't know. Maybe he's just better than me. Maybe I don't have my cutter sharpened correctly. But I do know that right now, right here, is a 264. Everything here is good. So, because I'm this way, I'm going to tape my controls. Because I get talking and I get moving and I bump stuff and I don't notice it, and next thing I know I've just cost myself another $20, $30 worth of cases, not to mention the time. So I believe that this is where it wants to be right now, and as I started to lead into, this is going to be another of my tape rants. Go down to the automotive parts store, people, and buy yourself some. This happens to be PG American. I don't work for the auto parts store. I'm just saying that there are certain places where it is ridiculous to try to save money. And one of them is that there is no place in a machine shop for hardware grade, for homeowner grade, for Home Depot grade masking tape. Take my word for it. You may or may not even know this, but Home Depot does not have masking tape that's worth bringing home. Go get yourself some real masking tape. One of my uncles, who's a lot more vocal than me and a lot less polite, told me that a long time ago. And of course, people like me get, and I made that mistake in this case of saying, he's just blowing off. He's just justifying something that's not going to really matter to me. Well, after enough tape messes, it now matters to me, and I'm going to say, listen to Uncle Art, would ya? And go get yourself some good tape. Now, whether you use it to muck up the controls on your lathe or not is an entirely separate issue. But here we go. Let me see if I can get this to work. First thing is, we're going to get rid of... my numbers are still there. Like, they still might be good. Don't know. My lead onto the mandrel is certainly not very good. I could have done better with that. But for some reason I wanted to leave the mandrel long and parallel because I wanted to play with this whole surface. This was my first try at a mandrel. My next mandrel may well look different. You know what else I'm going to do? Forget my numbers. I'm going all the way up to the step on this one. See if that makes a difference. Back it off. Fire that mother up. Roll it on there and see what it does. It stopped is what it does. Like that. And let me done with this experiment. Don't like that at all. concept is fine. It's spinning in the shell holder just like it was designed to. Yeah, and once the cut is scrubbed off, it's not terrible because, I mean, it almost can't be terrible. It is still being cut with a lathe on a lathe. I do know now that I forgot to wash off the mandrel. So let's start with that. I'm grasping here, people. I am seriously grasping. I really hoped I could make this work. I really hoped it would work for me. I'm not even questioning the fact that it works for somebody else, because the one thing I'm not is stupid. Well, okay. The one thing I'm not is in denial. Okay, so I'm going to reset my tailstock to something completely different. There's the bump. I'm going to loosen this up, push this back out to where that wheel sits at the bottom of its travel. So that's different. See if that cleaner mandrel makes a difference. Eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that I also fed a lot slower that time. Maybe there's something in that. This is really distressing how this thing wants to go into a rest state hanging down. That's not a terrible neck. I can do better with manual equipment, but by the same token, this, there's only one way, and that's up. So I'm going to put this one in the box. Huh. I'm going to put this one in the box. Weird, eh? Again, this is the farthest thing from production. This is not how you do this, but it's what I'm doing right now. I don't believe in squirting a drip with my water bottle on something every time to clean it. This is very much a work in progress. Screw that pig on, let it rest. Turn like a monkey boy. Sharp, so I can hardly feed slowly enough to not run a nice furrow. It just doesn't want to break chips. I am feeding very slowly. Hear that noise? You can think that means I hit the shoulder. Stopped everything there. But I have to call that again a limited success. Don't like it, it's not great, but it's better than the alternative, which is to have to revisit all these cases, and they've already been visited, so revisiting them is going to do nothing but puss something up. Forgot to clean it. Kind of disconcerting. I don't do much with water. water doesn't evaporate. I'm used to picking that rag up and all of the solvent is gone, no matter which solvent I'm using. Water just stays there for the rest of the day, man. Rag is still wet. Boy, that one went on crooked. Shell holder stayed up that time though. Problem with going that big on that mandrel is I'm almost pushing eccentricity back into it. I overworked. I think I used too small a bush. I didn't realize in the other video I explained how after I was done I used a 6.5 neck down to 265 for my first step. Then I dropped my second shoulder pushback bushing down to a 263, I believe. And it pushed down and came back off and left the end flared out. Kind of different. I've never done it that way. I've always used the same size, but I had reason I wanted it to hit the mandrel better, and so I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but that it's consistent enough that it'll still shoot. It's just not as perfect, but it'll go in the gun straight. It's just not as nice as I like. So, where I'm going with this is I'm going to have to come up with some better mandrel sizing. If you think for a minute I'm going to start this process over for 50 cases. No. And my dimension is large enough that if I so choose, I can turn another thou off of these. I can even them all out, and I don't feel I'll lose any accuracy. So right now, where they're at is, I'm going to call it 264 plus. There are some tents in there that I'm not going to talk about. It's pretty tight fitted, this chamber. So, push come to shove, if I have just bollocked this beyond belief, I'll go shoot them. If I'm not happy, now they're popped out. Now I can just go through, redo all the nicks again, and be done. This is just incredibly slow, but it's possible that I save some time on some other steps. We'll see how they shoot out. Meantime, I touched the edge of that cutter with a stone and knocked it back just a little bit, and I will say that it's cutting better. It's cutting acceptably. This is an acceptable turning job. Not my favoriteest of all time. But in everything there is a learning curve. We are just going through that learning curve here. Neck. I need to remember that I segued into this without doing a lot of measurements. It could very well be that I'm not going to go put a bullet in one of these because I don't care. I'm going to get through this and move on to the next thing. But I might be cutting off 7 or 8 or 9 thousandths in one pass here. Maybe that slow feed is perfectly normal. I don't, I didn't, a lot to do with mandrel finishes. I could have cross-hatched that with 320. I could have, I don't know. It's, in the meantime, I'm achieving mild success here. Shoulder and getting a perfect ring all the way around because that brass has been fired, popped, blown out to size, and it is a real entity. It's been years, many years, since I turned brass unfired. So, some of my disappointment here with my run out, I've bought cases many times that had this much run out and fired them and went ahead in the PPC. There's 3 different suppliers that make pre-made PPC brass. They all shoot, they all win. That one there was far enough eccentric that I actually got a little tiny step on the high side. I'm going to have to be careful. So these necks are not going to be as good as I may well go back to blowing out and still try some iteration of this. Blow out, turn a mandrel to fit the blown out cases. Well, I just don't know. I don't know. Right now, I think I could get used to this. I will have to streamline my procedure because this is downright kludgy. As I noted before though, I probably am cutting off at least 7th out, judging by that curl at this speed. I think I'm taking off a pretty good bite. Don't know if the camera's showing the bite. If I had one of them editing tools, I could speed this up 2 or 3 times and overdub it, because you can't hear me over the lathe anyway. And I could come up with a really fast looking method. Would not be my way. But the more I watch these YouTube videos, the more I realize how fake 98% of all the information on there is, and the more I go, huh, yeah, I see the fake. This is like watching a PBS survival special. But can I do better? That is the question. Can I make this work? See, it's funny. If this was a new procedure, I wouldn't be as concerned about making it work. But it's not. I know somebody that's already doing it successfully. Well, that gives me some impetus to go out and not fall completely on my face. Okay. At least I can get it to work, maybe.